Tuolla Lontoossa Jennin mä kohtasin. Hallo Vepio, Vepio, ho! Hän on neidosten joukossa kaunihin. Hallo Vepio, Vepio, ho!
Well, here we are again. Once again, the Bookies are here to talk about books, writing books, reading books, borrowing books from the library, anything we do with books.
Just get them back on time, because you know the library doesn't charge a fine now.
Right, you've got to be.
Did you know that?
You're on the honor
Oh,
system.
yeah,
Well,
I know.
Susanna never holds books beyond their time.
Well, you know,
So
they...
she doesn't know about fines, even when there were fines,
What?
right?
What? You don't know that there were fines. Yes, they fine you.
Oh,
I think it was
remember the
5
fines.
cents a
Yes,
day.
I remember the fines. I respect authority far too much, and I was terrified about getting a fine. So yes.
And
Oh.
it never happened to her. Her record is perfect.
And once, even if you pay the fine, no, they do eliminate it. But I have, and I'll carry it for the rest of my life, 80 cents. It said, when they let me know a book is due, I see it. You owe 80 cents. And I've tried to pay it, but they won't accept it. Yet they won't, that's being my permanent record.
You are forever stained.
This
I
is
know.
it.
Okay.
This is it.
Yeah.
Sometimes, the people might not know, Sharon Love Cook,
The Frugal Finn, oh, excuse me, I'm sorry.
author of the book to come, The Frugal Finn, but already the author of many published books.
The
novels,
Granite Cove Mysteries, for those who like a mystery, supposedly set in Granite Cove, but it's actually Cape Ann. Everyone tells me that. And they'll say, I recognized all those places. Okay, go ahead, Wayne. Sorry.
And Susanna Natty, who is a children's book illustrator and many more talents, but welcome again.
Thank you. Yeah.
And I'm Wayne Soiney, author of the Gloucester 400 event a novel called Ed and Joe, about Edward Hopper and his Josephine, whom he met and fell in love with in Gloucester, Massachusetts in 1923. Anyhow.
It's a romance.
It is a romance. I'm going to turn, Sharon, if you don't mind, turn to Susanna and tell her something that I only read today.
Oh.
Andy Warhol had an associate named Edie Sedgwick.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes.
At the time, very prominent, up in the 1960s.
Had a house in Gloucester.
A star in Andy Warhol's movies, including Manhattan. And one of the comments somebody said about Edie Sedgwick, I just learned this today, was that she preserved and never let go of her children's books, the books she read as a child. And this is a prominent person where you would think with lifestyle she would have let them go long before. She was holding on to her children's books, reading them, rereading them, enjoying them in her 20s and 30s. She was gone by the age of 40, so it had to, what I'm saying, she was an adult, but she wasn't an age. And I'm thinking, there are people in their 20s and 30s, and even in age, who are looking back and saying, geez, these are my children's books that I'm enjoying, and often the best part of them are the illustrations. And some of those people are toting around Susanna Natty treasures. So I'm going to say, she's a children's book illustrator many times over, and I'd like you to comment today on the subject matter. Frequently asked questions.
Ah, yes.
Susanna Natty.
Yes.
The frequently asked questions. Sometimes I get questions about the process of illustrating, and sometimes, especially in the context of like doing school talks, which I used to do, I would get other kinds of questions, which sometimes were on point and sometimes were, how old are you? How much do you weigh?
Or do you draw left-handed or right-handed?
Yes, I could say that those were the least frequently asked questions, but nevertheless very entertaining. However,
Those are rude kids.
well, it was funny handling the weight one, but you have to be very, very sensitive and encouraging, because I never want anybody to feel like a question is stupid. That's the worst thing that you can do, because that's why many of us don't bother to open our mouths when we need to. At any rate, frequently asked questions. Got my little Post-it notes. Oh no.
You brought
Need
the
my
wrong
glasses
one.
too.
Oh.
Maybe the most frequently asked question I got from kids was, how long does it take to do a book? Well, it depends on the book. But I'll divide it into two different buckets. One is, if you're creating the book yourself, the length of time it takes you to do the book is as long as it takes. I think about Virginia Lee Burton, who was the author-illustrator of this fabulous life story. And this was a work that she was, I think, something she dreamed about doing. It's an incredible story. If you haven't already seen it, it will take you from the beginnings of the universe to where we are right now. And it's incredibly moving. I find myself moved to tears sometimes when I get to the end, because she dove so deep into it. But it was at least 8 years that this was in the works.
May I read the subtitle?
Sure.
The story of life on our Earth from its beginning up to now. It's one of those things we don't think about, but a children's book might be perfect for it, to say that we're all unfolded parts.
And it's nice that it's condensed, because the adult version would just would go on forever.
It wouldn't work.
No,
It's
I know.
Wonderful.
It's amazing.
Story.
Well, I mean, I was amazed when I looked at it recently to see in this.
You could say this is as long. This book took as long as the universe. But indeed. Well, I mean, that actually is the better answer. This book took the universe's age to do. And what stunned me when I was going through it, because I've got a granddaughter who loves dinosaurs, was how many pages were devoted to the dinosaurs, when this really is essentially a timeline. It shows you how long the dinosaurs were around compared to us. And even though this was published in the 1960s, it's just as true, now as it was today in terms of up to now. Some things about dinosaurs, there's new information, some things change, but the sweep of it remains the same. Anyway, my point is that this was a passion of hers. She had the time to devote to it, and she was the creator of the whole thing. So she made her own timeline. The other answer to how long does it take to do a book is, when does the publisher want it? The world of deadlines. The world of deadlines. I did a series called Cam Jansen. I did 26 books in that series, and generally that I might know 6 months ahead. Let me hold that up a little longer as you talk.
Sure, thank you.
Yeah.
But sometimes the turnaround would be 3 months, so you're kind of lickety-split on it. You don't have the luxury of spending a long time thinking about how can I best compose this illustration when you've got a lot of tasks to devote to doing it. I have to say that I think I always did my best on every illustration, but because of deadlines, there were some times when I had to say, I can't let perfect be the enemy of good, and this is good enough. So I would send it off. But I've put these into two different categories, and a lot of it is driven by the amount of time that one has. There are a lot of other reasons for why these are in different buckets, but I have yet to do a book that I generate myself, and to have that wonderful luxury of a long, long, long lead time. And at this point in my life, I'm no longer interested.
I know.
I've moved on to other things. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
and too much time, I would say too much time, if it was just open, well, for me, I would never finish. It would be always something, let's think about this, and then I wouldn't sit down and actually face it.
There's a virtue in a deadline.
Yeah. Oh, right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Light a fire under you, my mother used to say.
Some author I read said books are not concluded, they're only abandoned.
Oh my God.
Oh.
Wow. I'm just taking that one in. Well, Wayne, that is profound. Yep.
Not original, but it is profound.
Well, I think it's fantastic, and I think it's very funny.
What's your
Okay,
next
another
question?
frequently asked question is, how do you get into this business? Well, sadly, I'm no longer the person to ask. I just recently had a wonderful conversation with an up-and-coming illustrator, and I can offer some ideas about the creative process, which is something that doesn't really change. I mean, everybody goes through similar ways of getting to that place where you have finished something and can look at it. But the business itself, how you get into it, has changed so much since I started out that I have to say I am a dinosaur. So how do you get into this business? You find somebody who just got into it maybe 10 or 15 years ago and not someone who started, 50 years ago? Yeah. All right, we're going to just cease this segment right now.
Susanna,
Well,
I'm going to help. Go ahead.
Oh, no. No. I just wanted her. Are you through with that thought?
I am through with
Suzanne?
that thought.
I was just going to move on to, now today, I'm sure Virginia Lee Burton, when she did hers, it was, watercolor or oils or acrylic or whatever. And she didn't, the digital, digital, the printing, the scanning, and all the programs, the digital Photoshop and all those programs, that you have to learn, or just the basics. She didn't have that. So how much of that affects you? I mean, did you have to learn Photoshop and do all that?
I think there are still many illustrators who don't use computerized images. They will use the other mediums, watercolor and gouache. I think Jenny actually might have used gouache. It's a beautiful kind of opaque watercolor. And, pencil, pen and ink, all of those are still available to people who want to use them. The great advantage of having generating something on the computer, though, is that it's really easy to fix a mistake.
And to add stuff, too. Add a little highlighting.
Yes, the old-fashioned way of pen and ink, or worse, watercolor, and make an error, and you're either in for like 2 hours of fixing something, trying to work it back in so it doesn't look like a place that was corrected, or you're in for starting the whole illustration over again.
Nothing is worse.
Well, if I had started a little bit later in my career, I think I would have loved using the computer. It just opens up so many possibilities. But I was too far along to change. I didn't have any interest in changing. I was already in these series where what I had done before was what I was going to continue doing. But it's a great question about medium, because now it's gotten so much bigger because of computers. Cut paper is another great one. There are some illustrators who've done that.
You mean collage?
Yes.
Yeah.
I used to go to school talks once in a while, and some school systems would have a school festival, and they would bring in various authors and illustrators. And there was a wonderful illustrator named Giles LaRoche, and he was an author-illustrator for some books. He would choose things that were in the public domain, like I think there was a poem by somebody Fields, I'm going to forget the first initials, but it was A Road Can Go to Anywhere. And all these exquisite cut pieces of paper to illustrate these things, just absolutely fabulous. And it must have taken him, talk about how long does it take you to do an illustration. Each one of these illustrations must have been, a 2-week process to do.
I'd say it's a very detail-oriented person.
Very.
Who would do that.
Yeah, he was the nicest guy.
Wow.
I would not be able to use collage things because when I use glue, it gets all over my fingers.
Oh, I know. It's messy.
Not my thing.
Yeah, I know. And just cutting out those little tiny pieces.
Yeah, good X-Acto knife.
Yeah, somebody. Yeah, it is someone very detail-oriented.
Yes.
Which is not me, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I like to get it done the first time, and that's it. One and done.
One and done. Well, I think you need to be very disciplined, and you need to be good about not getting glue everywhere.
And also, I was going to say, how about today? Contemporary kids are, if you have a subject. Well, I'll just give an example. I had cartooning classes. I used to go and teach cartooning to kids, and I remember they said superheroes. They wanted to do superheroes, and so I thought, oh, Spider-Man, Superman, that's as far as I went. And they were talking about, oh my God, not even Wolverine. I mean, the stuff they're talking about today. And I thought, who's that? And here I am. They thought I was really like prehistoric. I'm talking about Superman, Batman. That's all I knew. And so I was going to say, kids today, really, I mean, they know when you're not a contemporary, and yet it's not contemporary. So do you ever have to find that you have to do something and sort of have to update it for today?
I have not run into that, except that sometimes when I would do school talks, I would get a request. This was also a least frequently asked question. Yeah. Can you draw Wolverine? No, I can draw you Cam Jansen, though. Yeah. Would you like to see that?
And then they just kind of stare at you like, I don't know.
You got to be on your toes. And the last thing you want to do is sound antiquated. But I think if you're really listening to somebody and understanding what they're asking, they're really asking, how do you do this?
Yeah. And, that's right. And younger children, like 5th grade or 4th grade, they're good. They don't, they're not as current, perhaps
as the first graders.
Yeah. I think I'd avoid children completely. Maybe that's the best thing to do. I do like to. I used to go to nursing homes and do, the book that I'll get to that later. That's
good.
This is Suzanne's talk.
Momentarily.
Yes.
All right.
I just want to tie off the threads of it and then turn over to Sharon. But the story that I can tell you about is the myriad ways that somebody's children's book ends up published. And there are just too many ways to count. I think they've always kept fluid and changing. I don't think there's any one way now any more than before. Dr. Seuss, the quintessential guy. You'd say he's a children's book author and illustrator. You say Dr. Seuss, born in Springfield, Massachusetts. Oh, yes.
And got a museum out there.
But he moved to New York City, and he had this book that he wrote. Something about Mulberry Street.
To think that I saw it on Mulberry Street. Oh, sure.
Well, this book, and it became famous. But at one time, it was an anchor around his neck. He had this manuscript, and he had these illustrations, and he was walking around New York City, publisher to publisher. Nobody had any interest in this book. So he finally had it, he took it from what I would say, he was already resigned that he was going to bring it home from this publisher, the last publisher he was going to try. He was bringing it home burned. He was going to burn this book that nobody wanted. And on the street in Manhattan, as he was walking along home, he was seen. Somebody was yelling his name, and he turned. It was an old college classmate. Yeah. And the classmate came over and said, "Hi, how are you? It's been years, whatever." And then asked what we call Dr. Seuss, "What are you doing these days?" And the guy says, "Well, now I'm walking home to burn this." And he said, "What's that?" He says, it's a children's book manuscript. Nobody wants it. So, well, I just got a job at a publisher's. Right. Whatever became I don't know which one.
Yeah.
You look up the
Yeah.
book, and in the front page, it'll say who the publisher.
Right.
I've just got a job over there, and I bet your book is good because I know you and your good sense of humor and all the drawings you used to do. Give it to me, and I'll bring it.
And they were both childless. I think that's a funny fact too. They really knew nothing about children. Seuss and this the editor.
The editor, all right.
They knew really nothing about children.
Well, that made the difference.
Right.
Because they fell in love with the book.
Yes.
And they did publish it to great acclaim, and
Yeah.
you two today know the
Yeah.
title
right.
and remember the book. And I'm just saying that's another way. That's just another way. So prepare yourself. Put
And
your
never give
manuscript-
up. I was going to
No,
say
no,
never give up.
Give up. Put it
Opportunity
under
will find
put it under
you.
your wing and get ready, carry it home to burn. And
Yeah.
then somebody will come up to you and say,
Right.
I'll publish that book.
Well,
But anyway.
to that point, you know, I agree, I fully subscribe to the idea that if you are creating something for an audience, I mean, it's good to keep the audience in mind. You may not hit the mark. You need to create it from you for you, and that's what makes it work.
Very true. By the way, before I promised you could go, but I'm going to
Oh, no. Take your time, Wayne. I like being on the sidelines here. Sometimes you feel a little sluggish. It's a hot summer day. No, it's actually September. Yeah, it's still summer.
It's still summer.
Yeah.
Prepare yourself. This is a joke.
Oh, a joke. Oh, no. I thought you abandoned your jokes.
I have to announce it in advance, so then you know it's something like that. Joke. An author, a writer, died and went to a happy place, and as she appeared, St. Peter said, "Oh, I see. Would you like writer's heaven or writer's hell?" And she said, "Why? Is the choice mine?" And St. Peter said, "Yes, writers can choose writer's heaven or writer's hell." She said, "Well, before I decide, can I see the place?"
Yeah, look around.
Sure, he says, "I'll bring you down." So he brings her to writer's hell, and she's observing. There are writers from all eras, people with quill pens, people with typewriters, people with computers, and all of them are working like crazy. They're sweating. It's too hot. There's people whipping them, and it's like awful. So she just said, "I've seen enough." So he said, "Okay, now let's go to writer's heaven." So he takes her over to writer's heaven up in the clouds, but the writers are there with their quill pens, and some are writing with typewriters and computers, but they're also being whipped, and all the things are happening to them, beaten, and she says, these places look alike, writer's heaven and writer's hell. And St. Peter says, "Well, in writer's heaven you get published."
Oh.
Right.
In Raiders Heaven,
Next
you get
I turn
published.
to the much published.
Oh, that's a side splitter. A thigh slapper.
Oh my
I
God.
turn to my. Hey, look, I'm like Jackie Gleason drinking on the set here. This is
Oh, it smells pretty strong.
This is,
Oh, wait, I thought you gave that up.
This is Cape Ann Skeptics. It says always think responsibly, and it's a picture of the sea serpent. Always.
I like
think
that mug.
responsibly.
I like it.
And by the way, I would like to put in a little plug for Wayne's book. It's the first book I read that Wayne had written. I remember my sister-in-law had it at her house. It's a beautiful cover. It's called the Gloucester's, is that the correct title? Gloucester's Sea Serpent. Gloucester's Sea Serpent. And I thought, oh, this has got to be a joke. There is no sea serpent in Gloucester.
Oh.
And unbeknownst, I
It's
guess the
nonfiction.
joke's on me, but, and also that serpent has appeared in other times in history too, by, responsible people have seen it. This was a real, an enormous sea serpent, and Wayne, you wrote about it.
I did. Now,
Yeah. That was something.
Not to cut in on your
What a
time,
cover, that was beautiful.
Do it. Will you, Sharon? It's time.
Do what, Wayne?
You ready for your close-up?
Oh, my close-up. Oh, well, all right. I am the Frugal Fin. I would like to remind people, and I also set up a email account, thefrugalfin@aol.com. Now, I haven't checked this in 2 months because I didn't find much there the last time, so I'm sort of letting it accumulate. So if you have any questions about this show or about frugal finnery, just let me know. I was just saying to Susanna, I said, oh my goodness, look at my water bottle. It's got the cheap ass rack. Now, I remember being a kid, my mother used to paw around and, rummage through the cheap ass rack at the supermarket, and I would say, oh, please. And I would take the cart and push it away, and I didn't want anyone to know I was with her. I said she was going through everything. But I'm afraid it is an age thing, because now I find myself going through the cheap ass rack, and I am not ashamed. I am not ashamed. Yes, I won't take the dog big 20-pound bag of dog food with a hole in it that's running out. I can't take that because I can't lift it. Right. But I was sitting here and I realized I had an item from the cheap ass rack, so I'll turn that around. I guess the cat's out of the bag. I'm a cheap ass.
Wear it proudly.
Can you say ass on this show?
No.
No? Oh. Tyler's going to have to do a lot of editing, I guess. But anyway, Susanna was taught. I am a cartoonist and a writer, and this is kind of a cartoony cover that I did, A Nose for Hanky Panky. And it was very hard. I realized I wanted to create a nighttime scene, because this takes place at night. Mm-hmm. There's the pig looking in the window. I wanted these things. I was going to, the publisher was going to do the cover, and then the publisher said, well, what would you like on it? And I started saying, I'd like a lighthouse in the back, and a window with a lighthouse in the background, and the ocean, and a pig looking in the window, and a nice desk and chair, and a pair of legs, nice legs, behind the desk, and a little bar set up there, and then she said, well, why don't you sketch it out so we'll know? It's like she's trying to write all this down. She said, why don't you sketch it out? So I sketched it out, and then I scanned it and sent it to her, and she said, oh, that's nice. She said, you want to put some color in it? And so I ended up doing this. So I did them all.
Way to go.
Because it was hard to tell someone. But anyway, my problem was creating a scene at night, a nighttime scene. At first it was like navy blue, and I couldn't even see it myself. Right. So that's hard. I don't know how you do that, Susanna. How do you?
If I had a nighttime scene, I would.
What do you do?
Sort of create the darkness around what was to be highlighted, and just sort of like feather it in, so it gave the suggestion of nighttime.
Oh, yes.
But I mean,
feather it in.
You really you can't be literal about it, because otherwise people can't see anything.
It's sort of like movies, certain movies, and the lighting is so important. Sometimes people will be in their bedroom and it's night, and it's not. I mean, the room is all lit up, and sometimes it's so dark you can't see them.
Right.
So lighting is tough. I wish you'd bring in one of your
I will.
With nighttime. So
sure.
Because that's a question that someone will ask you. I'm asking you that question.
That is the only time I've ever gotten that question. That is the least frequently asked question.
There.
Excellent.
And how much do you weigh? Not very much. I would say not much over 100.
Just break your ears.
Okay. I know. But, well, anyway, I just thought I'd add a little levity there, Wayne.
That was good.
Wayne looks a little Wayne looks a little disgruntled.
I love the kids' questions. Remember Art Linkletter?
Yes. Now, when we say Art Linkletter, we're assuming that there's no one under 50 listening.
Wow.
So yeah, but well, they can Google it. They'll know who it is. They can run. Okay.
I loved that show.
But I know. Well, I just wanted to say in this, I started with the Frugal Fin. Actually, I started with Auntie Pearl. And Auntie Pearl, I have a pic. I'll have to bring a picture of Auntie Pearl. I did a picture of her. She started out and she was almost skinny, and then she just got very big in the second picture, and I kind of like that because her nose got bigger, everything got bigger. She was just, she was good. But
you were illustrating this and she got bigger?
Yes.
That is so
For the last
interesting.
book, Auntie Pearl was very
Yes.
big.
I know how that happens. The characters begin to take
And it
over
happens
a
to
little bit.
people too. Some people I know.
Yes.
Well, anyway, it is true.
It is.
Auntie Pearl did. Well, it was a space of maybe 15 years, and she probably put on more than 15 pounds. But I kind of liked her because before she was just, she just got warmer, and there was, more of her. And all right. Well, anyway. Why am I talking? Oh, okay. Auntie Pearl. Auntie Pearl, throughout the book, I had every other chapter I would end with an Auntie Pearl question. Auntie Pearl's helpful housekeeping hints. And I did this for about 3 books, and in the 4th, I didn't put, I thought, I can't come up with any more questions. This sucks. I said, no, I'm not going to do Auntie Pearl. And I didn't. And I didn't think anyone would notice, but a couple people did mention it. They liked Auntie Pearl. So I think I'm returning her.
Gotta do it.
It's just thinking up questions. And I do. When I stopped doing it, the questions came more frequently. They came into my head, and I said, I've got to pull the car over and write that one down because I'm never going to remember. But given that introduction, I will read a brief question here that it's a very brief. Auntie Pearl. Dear Auntie Pearl, I'm an adult student enrolled in the evening division of our local college. This semester I developed a huge crush on my distinguished-looking literature professor. After our last class, I invited him out for a drink. One thing led to another, and he ended up spending the night. The next morning, I found his argyle vest under a sofa cushion. Since then, I've emailed him and left messages on his voicemail, yet he doesn't respond. This is no schoolgirl's infatuation, Auntie Pearl. I think I'm in love with the man. What should I do? And the person I gave a signature is Po No Mo, you see.
There it is.
Po No Mo.
Like P-O-E?
Yes, Po No Mo. Dear Po, you didn't mention whether the vest was wool or cashmere. It makes a difference. Cashmere can be dressed up with a silk blouse and pearls, but wool is a more casual look. Worn with a flannel skirt and tailored slacks and low-heeled pumps, you have a stylish, professional-looking outfit. Auntie Pearl, yes. She sees. All right.
No relationships were harmed in the writing of this book.
Well.
Very good for you.
All right.
I
Thank
think
you,
I love
Wayne.
Auntie Pearl.
I'll bring in the 2 illustrations, and you tell
right.
me which one she likes best.
Okay,
All right.
great.
Which one you like best?
All right.
All right.
All right,
I
Wayne.
just was, by the way, we all use the library. I encourage people out there to use the library. And remember, even children can get library cards, right?
Right.
But this
Yes.
this is something I picked up this afternoon at the Sawyer Free Library. I'd like to look at it. It's over there.
oh.
Sharon's fan.
My fan.
She was using it.
Now I'm going to need it, now that you asked for it.
Yes, when,
All right.
when the spotlight turns on Sharon. But this is a movie based on a book. And I remember the first time, I think it was the 1980s, that I went into a library which had all these shelves of DVDs.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I couldn't
They
believe
still
it,
have
that
them.
they
Yeah,
had
I know.
DVDs. You could go to the library and borrow a DVD. Not a book.
Just don't scratch them, Wayne, because it's terrible when you're watching one and then
watching
suddenly
one,
it
stops,
gets
it
stuck.
stops.
Yeah.
You never know the ending. But this is the death is just, people are going to think it's a documentary. It's the best comedy. It's called The Death of Stalin. And The Death of Stalin, the subtitle of which is A Comedy of Terrors, is, in my opinion, the comedy of the decade. It's really wonderful. The actors are superb from beginning to end. You just want to watch it more than once. I watched it 5 times, and each time with, I think, more than pleasure, just laughing. Even at
5
lines
times, Wayne.
I knew they
Wow.
were coming. I knew the scenes were coming. I suppose it's just something that the actors really have magic in this one, called The Death of Stalin. And believe it or not, it's not only based on a book. It's based on fact. Because if you go and look at, not only Stalin did die, he died in the way that it was described. The terror, which is referred to in the background, truly was that kind of random, unexpected, crazy terror. And of course,
would you tell people, how did he die? I remember
he died
years
of a
ago.
Stroke.
Yeah.
And the trouble with Stalin was he didn't trust anybody, especially anybody educated. And he used to do things like purge the generals. So then when war broke out, World War II, he didn't have any generals who knew what they were doing. They were all dead from him. And then doctors, he didn't trust doctors. The doctors, the real good ones, were gone either to the camps or to die. And then when Stalin had his stroke, they had trouble because there was no
doctors.
real doctor left in Moscow that knew how to
Oh
treat
my
him.
God.
So but that's developed in a comic way, because even the doctors that are brought in like, I don't want to touch him, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's really, it's funny, but it's realistic. It's
Okay.
realistic funny.
You've convinced
And
me.
It's something that you just want to see. And of course, I just got it from the library. I've seen it 5 times. Sharon said she never saw it, so I'm asking her if she wants it, and she said yes.
And I will get it back on time.
To use as a fan.
And maybe people at home might, I suppose it's on Netflix or one.
Well, there's going to be a rush at the library.
Because I
after
was
this.
going to say,
That's right.
after this, there's going to be people standing in line demanding
Got to
this.
get my name in first.
Well, I don't want to get in trouble.
I think I checked, no, I didn't check that one. I checked another one.
Oh,
There's
okay.
another movie I want to recommend. I do not have here in front of you to show you, but it's historical memoirs, based on a memoir, and it's called Last Call. Last Call.
Oh,
And Last Call is by Francis Kroll Ring. Francis Kroll Ring. You'll see that if you go from the book is, her memoir is out of print. Her memoir was made in the 1980s, and it was not widely bought. I think you can get it on an ebook or something or Amazon for $150 if you really want.
was it about drinking?
No, it was about
Last Call?
F. Scott Fitzgerald.
Oh, yes.
The question of the hour is,
Yeah.
do you know the name F. Scott Fitzgerald? Yes,
Oh,
you do.
Wayne.
Yes, you do. Not everybody out there does.
Oh,
but
Wayne.
I'm going to say,
Everybody knows. Yes.
everybody knows. And why is it? Because mainly a book, The Great Gatsby.
Right.
Great
Oh,
Gatsby.
sure.
This will floor you, but you can look it up on
Okay.
online.
Yes.
How many copies of The Great Gatsby is sold each year in the United States? How many copies of The Great Gatsby, written by F. Scott Fitzgerald in the 1920s, how many copies in the 2022?
Is that a most frequently asked question?
That is a really
Yeah.
rarely asked question.
That sounds like a trivia question.
Two
Yeah.
rarely asked questions. You
Oh.
will never guess. Go ahead.
Well,
How many copies
well,
of The Great
I'm not
Gatsby?
going to say a lot because it's probably a little because everybody is so familiar with it, and and they've seen it on TV, they've
tell
seen
your guess.
movies. All right, I think 3,267.
That's true. What is it?
3,267.
Okay.
Am I close? Oh, Susie,
Well,
ask
we're gonna see
Susie.
Susie's
All
question.
right, I'll write mine down.
What is the rule on TV? It's your guess has to be
Oh,
the
yes.
closest to the real one, but
Oh,
not
but-
above
But
it.
not above it?
Or
So
she can
what-
call
what-
someone and
you-
ask.
For the you make your guess.
All right, well, I'm going to go to the other extreme so
Oh.
that we've got
That's
like
right.
So you
A
will land
lot.
nicely in the middle, I'm sure.
I'll
I'm
tell you
gonna-
that.
Well, he knows.
I know. it.
Yeah, he knows what
No,
the answer
Bernie,
is.
That's not fair. Okay, I'm going to say 88,304.
Oh, my God.
Well,
That's a lot.
Drumbeat.
Oh, right, Wayne.
F. Scott Fitzgerald's The Great Gatsby, which in his lifetime did not sell 25,000 copies.
Imagine
Each
that.
year now is the top of the Scribner's list, the best-selling book on the chart.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
It sells
Unbelievable.
it's in paperback.
Oh.
It sells 500,000 copies a year.
What?
Oh, wow.
500.
I was,
How can that be?
I was way off.
So she was closer.
Are
Not
they
very
e are
much.
they ebooks? You say these are print copies?
They're print copies.
Amazing.
They're print
And
copies too?
Yes. And you can look it up. You can go online.
I
say,
believe
The
you.
Great Gatsby, how many copies are sold? And I'm just telling you, this Great Gatsby book,
Wow.
he died. When he died, his relatives put, and I think we can show that on the screen, his gravestone with his wife Zelda,
Yeah.
and somebody in his family put on the tombstone, perhaps on the full screen you'll be able to see it, a quotation from The Great Gatsby. He was buried under this quotation of The Great Gatsby. So we beat on, boats against the current, borne back ceaselessly into the past.
Wow.
When Frances Crowell Ring wrote her memoir of the last year of F. Scott Fitzgerald's
Yeah.
life, when she was his assistant and last secretary,
Huh.
Oh,
she
yes.
called her. She entitled her memoir
Yeah.
"Against the Current," based on that.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we beat on, boats against the current,
Mm-hmm.
borne back ceaselessly into the past. Now, what I'm recommending, Last Call, you can get it in the library. There are at least 6 copies of DVD that you can look up. Last Call.
What is the year? What is the year?
I think it was the night. It's about 10 years old.
Okay,
I think the
yeah.
Last Call is about 10 years old in the movie. But you can't get the memoir except if you have $150 or $200.
Oh, wow.
So to go for the Last Call, which actually is in the library, and DVD, movie based on a book, wonderful movie, and I ask you now to bear with me, but during his last year, F. Scott Fitzgerald, all his books were out of print. The royalty statement he got for 1939 was 0.
Wow.
He had nobody buying these books. There were nothing.
Wow.
Nothing
Just
in print
imagine.
Anyway.
That's
And
amazing.
So, but
Yeah.
he was a Hollywood screenwriter. In
Yeah.
the daytime, he went to the
Yeah.
Hollywood Screenwriters Hell.
Yeah. Right.
And nothing published, nothing made into a movie. And yet at night he played author again. And it's a story
Yeah.
that another man wrote into a wonderful novel. And I'm being repetitive here, but if the Death of Stalin was the best movie comedy in 10 years, the movie, the book I'm just about to recommend, which we might be able to put the title, the cover up on the screen, by Stuart Onan, is called West of Sunset. West of Sunset is a fictional, historical fiction account of F. Scott Fitzgerald's last year of life. He was living in Hollywood among the pagans, and he was out of print, but he was struggling to write a book, and he had a girlfriend named
And Virginia,
Sheila-
what was her
Sheila
name?
Graham.
Oh, yes, she
Sheila
was the
Graham.
gossip columnist, wasn't she?
Yes, she was. You got all those things.
Oh, everyone knows
And
about
amazingly, and it's a
him.
little trivia in the novel. Across the street from him, other people lived, including at that time Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz.
Oh,
And so F. Scott Fitzgerald sometimes went out on his veranda and looked across the street could hear and see the yelling matches the arguments between Lucy and Desi before it was even a show.
Wow.
Where were we with this trivia? We didn't know. All right, now, his last novel he didn't complete. He didn't live to complete. But somebody in the 1950s said it's worthy of trying to put together in a book form. That's in the library. Don't get that one. Don't get that one.
No?
The real one I'm going to show you
Which one was it?
in
The
the
Tender is the
1990s. No, he finished that.
Yes,
This
yes.
is one that he didn't finish called, the title that he ended up with, The Love of the Last Tycoon.
The love
of
the Last Tycoon.
And his Last Tycoon is the last real creative master of Hollywood named Irving Thalberg. He gave him a different name. He named him Star, oddly enough. S-T-A-H-R, but Star. He wants Star to be memorialized, and he did so. He was just so captivated and compelled to write about this master of Hollywood, the creative genius, young man, died young. I think he died before 40, Irving Thalberg. And he made up this story out of nothing, a love affair that was tragic in some respects. And he wrote it nights, coming home from the studio, with this this secretary that we see in the movie The Last Call.
Yeah.
And in the 1990s, finally, somebody who has the right thing, his heart's in the right place. A professor named, his last name is Brucoli, similar to broccoli, but actually Brucoli.
Yes, Broccoli.
Who is a world-recognized expert in F. Scott Fitzgerald. Decided that the thing to do was to gather all the manuscript, the notes, everything to do with that book that could possibly be put together with an introduction. And the book, and I say again, there are 16 copies at the library. I happen to buy this for myself, but you can get it for nothing. You can read it for free. It's called F. Scott Fitzgerald, The Love of the Last Tycoon. But you got to get this one in the 1990s. You get the other one, you don't get the same.
Okay, it says the authorized text.
That's right.
The authorized text.
What does that mean?
Means that the descendants of F. Scott Fitzgerald allowed him to use his copyrighted manuscript to put it in this form, which is actually true to the original. Wow. In no deletions and made up and injected stuff, which in good faith was done in the 1950s, but it isn't. It's a much better product to read in the 1990s.
So you are highly recommending this?
Highly recommending The Love of the Last Tycoon. Okay. But I just want to read something about West of Sunset.
All right.
It was, when it came out, West of Sunset, the novel. Stuart Onan, many people might not know his name. Stuart Onan has written about 15 novels. Any one of them are worth reading. This one in particular was the Amazon Best Book of the month or year when it came out. Wow. And the Amazon people who reviewed it said, when an ambitious writer hops onto the high wire and strides across with grace, it's a wonderful thing to behold. And I don't mean this as hyperbole. Stuart Onan's West of Sunset, his glimmering fictional biography of F. Scott Fitzgerald's troubled years in Hollywood, is simply one of the best books I've read in many months. In some ways, this is a portrait of an artist as an aging man, retreated to sassy walk-ons by Dorothy Parker, Ernest Hemingway, and Humphrey Bogart. Do you think everybody knows those names?
Oh, sure. Those are house. Well, I was going to say,
I think we should
our
poll.
audience.
Let's take a poll.
I was going to say our audience
The
would
audience
probably.
divides into those that remember and those
Yes.
that
Over 50 and under 50.
We become absorbed by Fitzgerald's fight for relevance. Remember, guys, this is the one that you're buying 500,000 copies a year of his book. Ultimately, it's heartbreaking to see the legendary creator of Gatsby cling to his literary dignity, his reputation slipping from his grasp.
Little did
That
he
is
know.
Hey.
Sort of like Poe.
sad.
You know, sort of like Edgar Allan Poe, you
Edgar
know,
Allan Poe.
dying like that, not knowing you were going to be a household
Right.
name.
Just the same. You, the Boston Globe critic said, you are deep inside a living, breathing, suffering consciousness. Movingly and believingly, the manner in which a writer works, thinks, processes, assimilates, envies, is given life.
Yeah.
F. Scott Fitzgerald, in life, trying to write the way we agonize and trouble ourselves to put something together on paper that will please readers. And it's the Boston Globe saying, that's what this book does. West of Sunset, a USA Today, for those of you who read USA Today, an almost unbearably bittersweet portrait of the once great novelist F. Scott Fitzgerald's sad yet, you mentioned sad yet glittering final years in Hollywood. And the Chicago Tribune concisely said, a story well told about interesting people in interesting times.
And I was reading recently, well, I was just reading recently about the Hamptons and all the tourists, so many tourists go there, they go there searching for the house. I guess it was supposed to be in Gatsby's house, East Egg or something,
Yes, East Egg.
And they go looking for the Gatsby house thinking, I guess he did have an idea. There was this estate that he had in his mind, but I don't think there was any particular, he never stated there was a particular house or it's long gone.
Well, F. Scott Fitzgerald, I think, has become the sort of icon of the anguished author. Are you anguished when you write? Yes.
Me?
Yes.
Anguished?
Yes.
No, thank you. It's the choice of feeding pigeons or writing, and I pick
Yes.
writing.
Okay. What about you, Sharon?
Well, actually, this fourth Granite Cove mystery, I blame it on COVID. But honestly,
there was a certain
I
anguish.
haven't been able to sit down and finish it, and I do so many other things, you know.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to sit down. I know everyone that's a common problem, but now that I've mentioned it, I think on Monday I am going to sit down and I'm going to work on it.
Good.
Yes.
Good.
Thank you for reminding me.
The last joke I want to tell
Okay, good.
Oh, I hope it's
is
as
about
I hope it's as long as the other one.
It only seems as long.
Maybe next week. Well, all right, go
In
ahead. William.
Hollywood, there's a screenwriter, a screenwriter wannabe, let's say, scriptwriter, who's come around to the yard sales as frugal screenwriters do. Just
Yes,
like
frugal fins.
Going around to the yard sale, finds an old lamp and he brings it home. And then he polishes the lamp, and of course,
Oh yes, the
a
genie.
genie appears. The genie says, well, I'll give you one wish. The screenwriter says, geez, I'm delighted. Here we are in Los Angeles. I've always wanted to go to Hawaii. What I'd like you to do is to build a road from here to Hawaii that I can either bike over or walk over from Los Angeles to Honolulu. And the genie says to him, I'm sorry, the logistics, the people, the number of years, the designing, the architect, it's dealing with the ocean. I can't imagine doing that. Try again. Give me another wish. The screenwriter says, well, I'd like my script to become a movie. And the genie says, you want 2 lanes or 4 lanes?
Huh?
2 lanes. You want 2 lanes or
4 lanes.
2 lanes?
I'm working this. Okay.
Our movie? Yeah. Well,
It's easier to...
Oh, Gosh, I'm so slow.
No,
Okay,
no,
I
I'm
get it.
still,
I
I'm
get it.
still in the dark here.
He'd rather do the highway. The genie would rather do the highway.
Oh, he'd rather do the highway. Oh,
Yeah.
oh, oh, Wayne. Gee, I'm so glad that we didn't run out of time so that you could tell that thigh slapper. Next week, maybe
Look,
next
people-
week, Susie
people
and
have-
I will bring next time we'll each bring a joke, and I think we might come up with something a little better. I don't promise, but
You know, the only reason I tell these jokes is because of Sharon's reaction, which people have told me who
It's-
watch this stuff.
it's
The
so hard to-
reaction is much better than
oh, I'm sorry, Wayne. I thought because I was looking over at Suzanne, and she just looked intrigued. You know, she was
Totally.
She had this rapt look on her face, like she was waiting, and
Her eyes were glazed
I
over,
was
that's
waiting
true.
for the end. No,
We should not encourage this man.
I hope we get them all in print. We should perhaps put out a book of Wayne's jokes.
Oh my
Wayne,
God.
the best of
Instant
Wayne.
bestseller.
All right. Hey,
The best of Wayne.
Just about signing off.
Yes,
For Nose for Hanky Panky.
that's an
The
oldie.
Death of Stalin.
Yes.
Last Call. The Love of the Last Tycoon.
Life Story.
Oh yes.
And
Oh, Cam Jansen.
Cam
Oh, yes.
Jansen.
Yes.
Not in the same league
Not to be
quite, but, you know. It's
Yeah.
I think kids would prefer Cam because he's a detective.
Well,
Yep,
the
that's
thing.
right. Kids love
Yes.
that.
You realize that's
she's a smart
Yeah.
cookie.
yep.
exactly true. The table like this changes when you get older and your tastes change. But right now,
That's
the
right.
kids that are watching, this is what they have.
Yeah.
They
Right.
don't
Good.
want any of this stuff.
Yeah.
Good
And
wrap
then,
up.
Then it changes. All right.
But jokes are eternal. They go on forever.
Ooh.
They go on forever. No.
Unfortunately.
Well, what can I say?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure there are people out there who maybe tune in for your jokes. But that would be interesting.
I don't know if we reach the mental. facilities.
Oh, don't be modest. I'll bet there are. We'll find out. Perhaps they'll write to thefrugalfin@aol.com and let me know. What do you
Let you
think
know,
of
let you
what do
know.
you think of
Okay.
these
And then you let me know.
these fresh jokes? A
Scintillating.
fresh joke every week.
The main thing is, my last word, go to the library and have a ball. I want to thank
And
you.
get your book back on time,
Ladies,
so you
will
don't
be-
owe a fine, which you don't have to pay.
Well,
But
that's right.
but it will follow you forever, though. If
Oh, your record, you know.
yeah, permanent
Anyhow.
record.
All right. Thanks very much. We'll be back again another time to discuss books, and I guess movies.
We are
made
the
for
Gloucester
books.
Bookies.
We are the
Yes.
Gloucester Bookies.
That's
Thank
right.
you.
Tuolla Lontoossa Jennin mä kohtasin. Halo Vepi, oho. Hän on neidosten joukossa kaunihin. Halo Vepi, oho. Suukon kirsikka silmät niin mustat kuin yö. Ja ne loisti kuin tuikkiva tähtien työ.